And look who's here, the one and only Mary Trump, author, mom, defender of democracy, New York Times bestselling author, and of course, her Substack is wildly popular. The good in us, Mary Trump, good to see you, my friend.
Hey, Dean, how's it? It's been way too long, actually.
It has been. I haven't seen you since in the new year or even the last part of the year, but Happy New Year. Huh? People
Really?
say that. I go, are you being sarcastic? And they go, no, I'm just being nice about it. So, hey, before we get into the hard stuff, I want to remind people because it's not just vibes. We ended the year on a really good note, and objectively, we had huge wins in November. More,
Yep.
Mikey Show was just sworn in yesterday as governor.
Right.
He was supposed to win by 1 point. She won by 13 points because the energy's on our side. We won the mayor of Miami in December, first time in 30 years. Even special elections we lost, the gap was teeny.
That's
So
right.
I just want to reflect on that for a second. I mean, does that still bring you some hope, remembering that stuff?
Yeah. Listen, what's happening now has nothing to do with the elections in November and the other successes we had literally across the board. And I agree with you. I think that narrowing margins in races we sort of have no right to win, that's success, because that trend is going to continue. And I think some of it's by design, of course, and some of it's just because we're being led by madmen. But the chaos and the fear and all that is designed in part to make us feel demoralized and forget all of the good stuff, which we need to hang on to now more than ever. So I'm with you. It's kind of shocking how, I mean, I guess technically it was on January 3rd, but it felt like January 1st because, we got that terrible news out of
Mhm.
Switzerland, that, just kind of started the year off on a dark note. And then it just felt like with the kidnapping of Nicolas Maduro, things have fallen off a cliff, Dean. And it's not
Oh,
like 2025 was a great year in terms of American politics anyway.
so let's talk about, and I put the title of our talk today is Donald, Davos, and Dementia. So let me ask you, since you knew Donald when you were younger, was he always obsessed with Greenland? Like, was there something in his child, like, just like, he always wanted Greenland. It has nothing to do with being president. When I was 10 years old, he was like, one day marry Greenland. Like, is there anything like that? Tell us what is going on. What do you make any sense of Greenland for us?
um, Money?
That's it.
I mean, no, it's not it, but that's a huge part of it. Do we seriously think he went into Venezuela because he cares so much about regime change and democracy? No, he didn't. He didn't get rid of anybody in Maduro's government. He just wants the oil, and he's been very explicit about that. Do we really think that he wants Greenland for its strategic importance for national security? No, he wants the rare earth minerals that he's going to split up with his friends, and he's also it's just another way to advance the agenda to split the world up into three pieces, one for him, one for Putin, and one for Xi.
And I'm sure you saw the clips. I can't watch his speeches live. I don't
Yeah,
wanna
it's
get
wise.
done, like, it destroys your brain cells. But I saw clips where he confused. First of all, to remind people, yesterday he confused Greenland and Iceland one time at the presser. Today, at least 4 times,
Yeah.
kept saying, and Carolyn Levitt attacked a reporter who brought that up, said, "No, you're confused." Like, no, I'm like, "This is where we are." The chief liar is telling us what we literally all watch. Looking at the dementia thing, because I did see people yesterday in the news for the first time, many I never saw before, raise his cognitive decline. They're like, this is interesting. I see a little sliding, like, welcome to planet Earth, you idiots. Of course, where do you think he is now? We've talked about this before. How much more degradation have you seen in the last, say, few months?
Olivia, I've got to tell you, like, one of the main reasons we're here is because of the normalization of his depravity, his corruption, his and his serious mental illness. I mean, obviously it's worse now because 10 years have passed. There's that. And so he's older, and there are all sorts of presumably neurological issues cropping up, and he's physically unwell based on observations of people who know better than I. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm not a neurologist or
Mhm.
a medical doctor of any kind. But it's also, this idea that yesterday, the press conference yesterday, which went on for 80 rambling, delusional, crazy, mendacious minutes, and the utter humiliation of the United States at Davos on the world stage, as if, suddenly, oh, wow, this is bad. Guys, 10 years ago, the guy was unfit on every level by every metric to be anywhere near the Oval Office. So is it worse now? Sure, but it didn't need to be worse than it was in 2015. So it's maddening to me that people actually are still waiting for a line to be crossed. It's like we left the line in the rearview mirror
It
many, many years ago.
I think soon, Mary, that you mentioned you're a clinical psychologist, but you don't have the degree or the expertise, let's say, in the area of neurology. We
Right.
don't need this. We are post education.
Yeah.
Look at RFK Jr. This idiot's the head of Health and Human Services. You don't whatever you want to be, folks. It's superhero time. So we've got, but there's also you've got Greenland now that Donald has said that we're not going to use military force, which is I don't know if it was ever an option, but at the same time, we all know we could have wake up one day and our forces are there,
Yeah.
and he sent 50,000 to the base, and no one can do anything about it. But I do think that gives a little breathing room to go back to what he's trying to distract us from. One, of course, being Epstein. I mean, whatever's in that file is so bad, he will go to war with our NATO allies. And we're
Yeah.
considered 2 million documents. DOJ said over a million, maybe 2 million documents they still have. And I like that the survivors are coming forward saying, you promise us by law for these documents. They need it for healing. This
Mhm.
helps them cope. It's beyond politics. So it continues to be a stonewalling by Trump and Pam Bondi. What do you think happens next? Do you think we get anything? I know they're going to clean it up, but anything comes out of this?
No, I mean, we learned a couple of days ago that they filed a brief in court to prevent their having to comply with the law. And we're talking about the Department of Justice, by the way, which no longer exists. I mean, it is the Civil Rights Division, the storied Civil Rights Division is does not exist anymore. The DOJ and Civil Rights are wholly to serve as Donald's defense attorneys and or go after his perceived political enemies and protect the rights of guns. I mean, I think, and white people, obviously, white people,
It's
um,
press.
white, straight, rich people. But I listen. This is of a piece with what we've seen with Donald. Why did he? Why is he threatening once again to take over Greenland? Because he got away with kidnapping the head of
Mhm.
state of Venezuela. That's why, and nobody did anything about it. Why is the DOJ continuing to stonewall? Because who's going to stop them? Like seriously, what happens if a judge says, "Oh no, you have to you have to release the files"? Either, as you said, they're all going to be cleaned up, redacted, or what have you, or they're just gonna say, "Yeah, you and what army?" Because as you mentioned, there are 2 million documents, about 12,000 have been released, heavily redacted most for the most part, and that's, less than 1%. I think it's 0.6% or 0.06% or some tiny, tiny number.
There's too much math. I can't do this.
Sorry. It's tiny. It's
It's
a
a teeny amount.
vanishingly
Right.
small percentage of all of the documents there, and I think we need to remember that, despite the fact that every single thing Donald has done since the beginning of the year, Venezuela, Maduro, what's happening in Minneapolis,
Mm.
threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act, threatening to move the 11th Airborne from Alaska to Minneapolis, or perhaps Greenland, who knows,
Right.
threatening to take over Greenland and dismantle the post-World War II Western, on and on and on. All of that stuff is serious in its own right, and it has to be taken seriously. But as you point out, it's also a distraction from the fact that Donald doesn't want the Epstein documents released. So the simple question is: has anybody ever acted guiltier than Donald is acting vis-a-vis the Epstein files?
That's a great point.
No.
No one. No,
No.
it's like out of a movie, like how guilty he feels about this. And what's kind of interesting, and I don't think he's going to like this when he hears about it when he comes back on the plane, is that James Comer, the chair of the Oversight Committee, just announced Ghislaine Maxwell is going to be deposed by Congress the first week of February. And while it won't be in front of I don't believe it'll be in front of the cameras, but behind the scenes, still, that brings the Epstein issue back to the forefront. And
Yeah.
even though they're going to say, oh, she cleared Trump, no, she's still going to hurt Trump by saying, Donald,
Yeah.
by saying, I saw him at Mar-a-Lago. He was good friends with Jeffrey, all that stuff. Yeah, she's not going to give us exactly what we want. But as a lawyer, when you're building a case, that she's going to fill in all these gaps that are really bad for Donald. So
Yeah.
he's going to be so upset with Comer when he gets back. I will not be surprised if that deposition gets put off. It is not helpful to him at all. I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, even if she lies through her teeth, which we know she does,
Sure.
because clearly she gave Todd Blatch whatever he wanted. She got transferred to a minimum security prison. She has privileges no other prisoners have, etc. It's not about what she has to reveal. She's not going to reveal anything because she wants him to pardon her. It's that, as you said, James Comer is putting a spotlight back on the Epstein files. And Donald, I would be shocked if Donald doesn't threaten a primary
Yeah.
or something.
Exactly. Like they don't get it. You bring in Ghislaine Maxwell, you lose control of the narrative because it all goes back to Epstein. It's not, you can't hyper focus this and go, oh, here's his little part and here's his little part. It's going to be bad for Donald. But there's something else though that Donald is not intentionally distracting per se, because I don't think he really cares. He's gotten away from it. But the New York Times had a remarkable reporting yesterday on the corruption. We have never seen an American president this corrupt, make this much money for himself. And and I'll just read one line and we'll talk about it. New York Times review, the analysis from news organizations found Donald Trump has used the office of presidency in 1 year to make, are you ready for it, folks? $1.4 billion in 1 year. And we're talking about crypto scams, payments he got personally from selling those lawsuits. People think that went to the White House or something. Those shakedowns of various
Right.
agencies where his lawsuits, they were personal lawsuits, defamation lawsuits against different news outlets. They paid him directly. And of course, the crypto stuff where he's using his name and his children, the kids, of course, on the world financial bullshit thing that's going on. This is unreal. This deserves far more press. And it's a yawn by the media, but New York Times, great reporting yesterday on this.
Yeah, it was. And, it just sort of brought me back to 2018 when on October 2nd, the New York Times published that extraordinary investigative report about my family's finances and just what a failed person he is as a business person and how much money he'd received over my grandfather's lifetime and gifts and unpaid loans and how he never paid his taxes and all on and on and on. Basically, just exploding the myth that Donald was a legitimate business person or a self-made man. He received over $416 million from my grandfather over the course of my Donald's lifetime until my grandfather died. And then when my grandfather died, he got another couple $100 million on top of that. All of it was gone before he got back into office because, again, failed businessman. So the reason I was been thinking about that is because it didn't matter. It didn't change the narrative.
Right.
It didn't make a dent. And here we are again. And the difference is the corruption is happening now. The corruption is happening at the expense of the American people. And it's just another thing about him that's been normalized. People forget that politicians used to take very seriously their responsibility to have no appearances of conflict whatsoever.
Mhm.
Jimmy Carter sold his peanut farm, for God's sakes. And now we literally have Donald using the Oval Office to sell America off by, sell America for parts, right?
Mhm.
And to make it very clear he's for sale at any price and there's always a quid pro quo. And yeah, oh, well, what are you gonna do? What do you mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna stop it.
The New York Times did some great reporting. For example, like UAE, the United Arab Emirates, invested $2 billion. That's 2 billion, folks, into the company run by Don Jr. and I think Lutnick's kid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, they get approval for these advanced semiconductor chips they had wanted. But by giving $2 billion to Donald and Donald's son, it's related to the kids. But Donald himself, the president, is making money from this company. It is he's also his coins, a cyber bullshit. Him and Melania is selling those, and the New York Times reminded us of that. I wrote about that earlier in the year, but again, it is in our face. And Amazon paying for the Melania documentary more money than ever, so that Jeff Bezos and Amazon can get the preferential treatment they want, no regulations, some contracts from the federal government. We are watching a government for sale like a third world nation, like a S-hole country. That's
Yeah.
what he's turned this into. And I don't know
Yeah.
why the media, the New York Times, if they didn't do this reporting, it would be like here and there. I don't know if it moves people anymore. I don't know if this is bought into the Trump, the Donald criminal entry. They go, well, that's just Donald being Donald. I don't know. I fear that.
Well, I think that's been one of the most damaging tropes in modern American politics. Uh, it's all built in.
Right.
Nobody cares because that's what we expected. Well, okay, well, if that's who he is and what he does, then that's disqualifying. It's not that it's something we should accept and then make him president again. It's just incredible. It's like almost alchemical. Like I honestly don't understand it beyond the fact that this is happening because a lot of people want it to happen. Donald, for various reasons, continues still to be of use to other people who are in positions of power and have obscene amounts of money. And because he's who he is, he can get them more money. He literally is has spoken openly about taking Venezuelan oil and just giving it to oil companies. What do we seriously think he's going to do with the rare earth minerals in Greenland if he gets his grubby mitts on them? He is going to give them to the tech bros or the AI people. I don't know, I don't know who needs rare earth minerals, but apparently they're very valuable.
Yes,
Um, and he'll sell them to the highest bidder, or he'll use them for influence, or what have you. And I think, Dean, that's why this year we need to start focusing on the people who are perpetuating the horrors because it's not Donald. He is being allowed to stay in power because he's enriching and empowering other people who I promise you will do much more harm than he's doing, which is saying something.
right. I cannot agree with you more. And yesterday on my Sirius show, and I'm going to write an article for Substack about it in the next day or two, about how EU, if they wanted to be serious about stopping Donald, follow what they did to Putin. Go after the oligarchs,
Yep.
sanction the oligarchs. In this case, it's Donald Trump's big financial backers. Sanction them into freezing assets, no travel to the EU, not
Right.
allowing banks in the EU to do business with their companies. You want to see pressure on Donald? Watch the billionaires who gave money to him, fossil fuel, tech, others who are paying for the ballroom, all of them. Then you start sanctioning little by little, and you tell them, you go anymore to Greenland, we're going to do this. And you hope then maybe there's a pressure point. I'm not sure. I mean, you have a better understanding than I do of him, but that might be a pressure point if the wealthy oligarchs go like, you're destroying us now. You got to
Yep.
go. But they go to JD Vance, though. I mean, JD will play ball in a second.
Yeah.
That's the concerning part, too.
I mean, look, I think that one of the things they're trying to do is cre- change the system enough so that when Donald exits stage left, it doesn't matter who's next in line because they will have created a structure which they can't lose, right? That's why they're so focused on gerrymandering and adding Republican seats and et cetera.
Let's talk about ICE. Look, is when you look at it now, is there any, if a Democrat says reform it, is that absolutely bullshit at this point? Do you
Yeah.
have to abolish it, given how bad it is? And it's not
Yes.
one place, it's not a small, it's all over the country.
Listen, ICE should never have existed in the first place. Neither should the Department of Homeland Security. So that's where I stand on that. So yes, there's no excuse right now, none, to talk about reforming ICE. First of all, how exactly? Like, what are you
Right.
going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to defund it? Sure, because Donald the Republican Party, I should say, has completely ceded its constitutional duty to control the purse. I mean, seriously. So he's going to do whatever he wants to do with the funds, and it's something like $40 billion from last year's budget, and it's about the people now in ICE. Like How do you reform the kind of cruelty we're seeing these people engage in? You can't. It's not it's not a legitimate agency. It has to be abolished. And I think any Democrat who doesn't have the guts to say that should just resign and let somebody who has the courage to understand where we are as a country and the courage to tell the American people explicitly what needs to happen because these are the stakes. That's where we are. And you talked at the beginning about the momentum we had at the end coming into 2026. The way to squander it is to do what Democrats always do and tack to the right on immigration policy. Stop it.
So if they, I don't know why they don't care what the base thinks. If you talk to the part of the base, it's animated. Overwhelmingly, even polling shows you can't reform an agency that is this corrupted. The
Yep.
problem is from the top. I'm sure there were some people who joined ICE years ago who were really good people. They joined for the best reasons. They wanted to
Yeah.
serve America. Now the agency is so corrupted. If you were the only way you could have anything like ICE again is you've got to prosecute the bad ICE agents to send a message to the rest that you can't get away with this. Like getting rid of just abolishing ICE and not prosecuting ICE is meaningless because you're going to have a new agency and these guys are going to get hired in the new agency, right? The only way you could keep ICE, or if you have a new ICE, which is going to be some immigration enforcement, which we've always had, you have to have some, is the murder of Renee Good, the ones committing crimes, now violating the Fourth Amendment, excessive force, assaulting people. Charge some. That will change conduct immediately. People don't want to go to jail. I know how this works. I'm a lawyer. Believe me, charge them. That's how
Yeah.
you change things. And that's what we
Yep.
need. We need Democratic AGs, Democratic DAs to take a chance. Many of them, not just Keith Ellison, who I love, my buddy in Minnesota, many of them charge ICE agents around the country. And you're going to let them litigate their immunity. They have certain immunity. Let them litigate it, but they're going to have to go to
Yep.
court, be processed, post bail, all of that. And that's going to change conduct. That's what I believe deep down.
Yeah, I think you're right. And just as an indication of how desperate the Trump regime is not to allow ICE to be reformed in any way, shape, or form, to continue with this absolute myth of absolute immunity, guess who's been criminally subpoenaed? The governor of Minnesota, the mayor of Minneapolis, the AG of Minnesota, and some other like 6 or 7 people. So the politicians and prosecutors who want to investigate the murder of Renee Good are now themselves
Mhm.
subject to criminal subpoena. That's where we are.
Look, right. And look at what Trump did. They killed Renee Good and then they want to investigate her widow.
Yep.
That is like Joseph Stalin stuff. Execute the spouse and then investigate the widow for crimes that you're going to make up.
Right.
And very last thing, the midterms are coming up. To me, I've analogized them to the Battle of Gettysburg. I wrote an article. I don't People didn't like it that much. But the idea of the Battle of Gettysburg
I liked it.
is not that it's going to be a bloody civil war, but that was a turning point of the Civil War. If
Yeah.
we lose in November, it would be like if Robert E. Lee won the Battle of Gettysburg and the Confederates, which Trump is the ruler of today, moved into D.C. and New York and Philadelphia. It's over.
Mhm.
So to me, the stakes are that high. I don't want to say it's the most important election of our lives. That's cliche. It's the most important election of the life of our republic. This is the most important midterm of the life of our republic. How are we going to get ready? What do you think we should do to keep people engaged and not be feeling things are beyond our control? Because they're not. We had great success in November, which is why I started our conversation with that stuff.
Well, that's it. Keeping people's attention focused on the things we can do something about while putting the other stuff in its proper context. I mean, we do need to be paying attention and we need not to drive ourselves crazy, but to understand, okay, this is why so much is at stake because they are
Right.
literally trying to unravel 250 years of democracy. They are trying to dismantle the post World War II order. And that is unthinkable. Those are two things that were utterly unthinkable to most Americans a year ago, maybe, because
Mhm.
most people don't pay attention. Like you and I have known that that was in the works since 2016.
Right.
But this isn't about saying "I told you so." This is just about making sure people are very clear about the stakes, so that we can then focus our attention and energies on the things that we can do. We know that we had massive amounts of electoral success at the end of, well, actually throughout last year, but specifically towards the end of last year, and we build on that momentum. And I think part of that means challenging Democrats, primarying weak establishment Democrats who still believe in the myth of bipartisanship or who still treat their Republican colleagues who are fascists, who support a fascist regime and are doing nothing, squandering every single opportunity they have to put the brakes on this insanity as if they're still buddies. Like the sight of Chuck Schumer hugging Marco Rubio and laughing it up with him made me so sick. Marco Rubio is a tiny man who feels powerful because he now is attached to a powerful fascist regime. He is a terrible anti-American, un-American person who should be in The Hague, quite frankly.
And that I cannot agree with you more. And the points I keep making in Substack and on my radio show are that while the International Criminal Court doesn't have jurisdiction over crimes on U.S. soil, and they have 4 different crimes they have jurisdiction over, but they do on soil of signatory countries. Denmark is a signatory. If they attack Greenland, that's a violation. Venezuela is a signatory. They could charge Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and others. And I wish a signatory country would make an application to the prosecutor, or at least the European Union guys talk about this. Tell Trump, if you come into Greenland, we're going to file a complaint with the ICC and he could be charged for war crimes, meaning while he's safe in America, he's not safe in other countries. But Mary, I want to thank you for this, the longest chat we've ever had, because we had a middle break. In the middle, it was all my side. I thought it was Mary froze. It was all my side that had an internet issue
I
here.
kept it going.
Mary, where do you want people? You did. I'm like, my fiance Hen is watching on the other. She goes, Mary's still talking. I'm like, who's she talking to? What's going on? She's like, she's talking to AI Dean. She's talking to, like, I'm not even there. It's like AI Dean talking to you now. So, Mary, where do you want people to follow you? Is it Substack? Is social media? What's the best place to follow your work?
Yeah, actually, I would love it if you guys check out my Substack. It's called The Good in Us. We also have a media channel, Mary Trump Media. We're on YouTube. And yeah, I'm on all of the platforms because, who has anything better to do these days?
This is what we do. Thank you, Mary. Thanks so much for joining and the patience of going through this all. Thanks, everybody, for